All right, welcome back to PraiseCharts Live. Are you ready for a good one today? We are talking with Jake Gosselin, and we're going to talk all about the church, technology, troubles that we experience along the way. Jake is the guy who's got so many solutions, so many experiences, such a great network. And what a year we have all experienced together all over the world. We're all kind of in different places. I'm actually in Langley, British Columbia in Canada. And today, believe it or not, we're waiting on our own government to give us instruction at 1 o'clock to find out if we can release some of our travel restrictions, release some of the restrictions on how churches are meeting, so many things like that. I know you might be somewhere in North America, all over the States, many places it's happening different. Sometimes some people down in the UK and all of that all over the world. So the church has gone through so much this year, and we want to talk a little bit about that and ask the question or answer the question, has the church changed, or how has the church changed? Are we different after what we've all experienced in this last year? So let's take it away. Get ready for Jake Gosselin. Okay, Jake, truth be told, we got into this podcast and there was a swirl of tech difficulties. And I'm like, with Jake, how can this happen with Jake?
People wonder why, I have the YouTube channel that covers all these things, all these fun topics about church tech. And it's only because like I've literally had to experience every single tech failure in the book and find a solution to that tech failure. So and today it's a great example. At least today for us though, it was not it wasn't a competency thing. Like you were running the stream, right? It was Restream's system failure of their servers went down.
Exactly.
So
well, for those of you who are tuning in, you have no idea that there were any troubles, but we just went into this live stream, pressed live. I'm all good to go, feeling confident, feeling like I'm going to show Jake how I can pull this off just without a hitch. And then, system failure. So it was somebody else's problem that we had to figure out. So, well, here we are. And this just makes it even more real, right? It's two guys. We're both exist to try to make some of these challenges that churches face a little bit easier. And I got to say, I really like what you do for the church. The voice that you carry, Jake, is so great. I love watching you. Sometimes I watch you on the big screen in my home TV as I'm flipping through YouTube on my Apple TV. There's Jake Gosselin, ChurchFront plastered all over the place. And but I love watching it. Such great production and great insight. I'm sure. How has it felt like going through this year? I remember watching you pretty much in the middle to late March when you were just running on another track, and then this whole episode hit, and just probably makes you that much more relevant and needed, helping the church navigate through this year. Hey.
Yeah, it was, worship tech is something that we have been talking about a lot for the past, 4 or 5 years. I've been working on ChurchFront, making YouTube videos about things. Live streaming was always more of it's a nice luxury when we can get around to it and we have the resources for it, but never a huge part of core strategies for churches. And then, of course, that changed everything in March of 2020 and for my own church and even for every church. And it's like, wow, we got to get this stuff figured out. So for me, again, it's like, I think the thing I enjoy most in life is I really just come across new problems I have to solve every single day, but it's also new learning opportunities every single day. And the amount of knowledge I have, even within the worship tech space, like the amount that's increased over the past year, it just kind of surprises me because, like, I don't know, like, and who knows what the next 12 months are going to look like now. I'm kind of excited to hopefully take a little bit of a break on the live streaming and video, online video production stuff. And we can talk more about how we think trends are going to change. But I go through different chapters and seasons of life where, depending on just the situation I'm in and what problems have to be solved, that determines like what new things I really dive deep into researching and learning new methods, and then usually figure out a good system for it, and can use that system for the time being until there's some other big disruptive change in technology.
They're always going to be coming, always when you're not expecting them, right? So, well, today I was kind of just asking the question, how has the church changed? Initially, when I, came up with the title for this episode, I just was going to say, has the church changed? Because and then I thought, well, let's just ask, how has the church changed? But I'm a little bit hesitant about saying that, because I don't want to suggest that this church that has outlived so many pandemics, so many struggles, so many persecutions. I mean, in 2,000 years of history, the core of the church has not really changed. So we're not here suggesting that even what happened in the last year has changed the core of the church. But there are some nuances where I think, as a modern culture, we maybe learned about ourselves a little bit more. And I don't know, just wanting to kind of talk about it. So first thing, since you already brought it up, is just live streaming. That's kind of on the top of my head. And just the plain old question is, do you think live streaming has come to stay, or is it going to linger around, or is it going to fall away? I think that's a question. Is this new technology constantly going to be inside the new world of the church? Did it thrust us forward? What do you think? What's your experience about that?
First, I will caveat the whole conversation that I really don't know what's going to happen, but I thought this would be a fun place to just kind of flesh these thoughts out. Yeah. And I didn't even have enough time to think about this too much before this. I actually have been now that a lot has happened in my life just in the past month, I do have more space and time to reflect on where we're at, and I'm still doing that. So hopefully nobody's listening to this thinking we have any definitive answers about anything, but we have opinions, thoughts, ideas that might be fun to throw around. So
this is a conversation. So we're letting people tune in.
Yeah. And so with live streaming, I think now it's pretty safe to say it transitioned from a nice luxury that some churches have. And sometimes maybe there's churches before this that felt it was a necessity for people who are homebound and can't make it to the local church for other reasons, if they're, they just can't make it to church. And then, when a pandemic comes, then a lot of people couldn't go and meet in a group. And so I think though, that'll stick pretty well in terms of churches being like, we do have to have worship available in some sort of online format. And I'm not even totally convinced that the traditional, just streaming exactly what we do on Sunday morning in a big room to the online audience is even the best methodology for that. Because the weird part about it is you're kind of just, when you're an online viewer in that context, you still kind of feel like a fly on the wall, instead of being even with high production, like high quality video, and you get the great audio and all that stuff. And I love helping people figure out how to do that. It's just as a YouTuber, most of my content that I'm creating, I feel like it's just a different format, right? And I mostly don't do live streaming. We're live streaming right now, but people can also, watch later. But there's also a different feel and vibe you get from even this type of production we're doing right now, where it's just us two having a conversation. And it's not like you and I are sitting in an auditorium on a stage somewhere. It just gives a different vibe, right? We're at our desks and it's more personal. So I hope to see that churches can become a little bit more creative in their online content creation. And I don't think the church has really, just generally speaking, has tapped into the potential of things like YouTube search algorithm and creating content for people searching for answers of spirituality and things like that. We're still kind of stuck in let's just stream what happens on Sunday morning in a really high quality way and hope that makes an impact. But from a YouTube, when I put my YouTuber hat on, I'm like, you'll get a couple dozen people on your stream. I do think your live stream can help from a marketing and growth standpoint on your church, like maybe people who are searching for churches in their area want to check out what it's like online. Everybody does that. Like, when you're searching for a new restaurant or store in town, you're always looking online for reviews, and you just want to experience it online a little bit before you actually go. So so those are just, honestly, those are the random thoughts just bouncing around in my mind right now. It's like, I think live streaming will become, it already has become, it's going to stay a really important part of like keeping that, available online. Cause also who knows what's going to happen in the future. Like, honestly, I think 2020 kind of set a precedent that like most of society is okay if the government wants to shut things down and keep us all at home, and we can talk politics about that. But I think that's just the truth of it. It's like, there's kind of a precedent now, like that stuff can just happen, and that the church will have to be able to be online when it's necessary. Yeah.
I guess I'm wondering as well about, sometimes you don't appreciate something until it's taken away from you, and then you're like, wait a second, I really, want that or crave that. And so when March hit of last year and we had to go online, the thing that was taken away was that sense of like physical community, embracing, shaking hands, hugging, connecting, standing beside someone, hearing voices beside. There's so many elements that no one will ever be able to fabricate online unless we go into some, virtual church. I've seen, videos about that, but heaven forbid that actually happens. But
it probably will,
those
dude.
are
You don't
things
even know
that there are elements that cannot be replaced. You can't, a chat on the side of a video doesn't replace the interpersonal connection, right? And so perhaps that's one way maybe that the church has changed is we've recognized what we value a little bit. We recognize more how we value interpersonal connection and authentic personal connection. I wonder if the church will look a little different in the coming years with a new sense of depth or growth or appreciation of, man, I missed people. Like just a range of people.
Yeah, to replicate, until we come out with a very advanced virtual reality system someday, like to replicate the actual experience people get in person in a church building, singing with hundreds of people, and that whole experience, like you can't find that anywhere else. And I think like, people, for us down in the States down here, we pretty much we're like fully opened up now, right? And you don't even have to wear masks at most places. And we had our first Sunday just this past Sunday with no mask in worship, and it was just incredible. It's like, oh my gosh, like Finally. It's like I do enjoy leading worship. Right. It's like and it was so life-giving. And then that same afternoon we had a block party in our neighborhood with like 200 young families in a park outside on a beautiful day, and everybody was just like, this is amazing, like seeing everybody. Like, I think we all appreciate, like you said, we have a deeper appreciation for it. And I think as Christians, as a church, we can even have a really deeper appreciation and theological appreciation for the purpose of why we gather together in the church. And you can think about things like the purpose of the incarnation. Jesus didn't come to us over a Zoom meeting on video, right? Like he came to us in the flesh, and like I think that's just part of the way God designed things to be. Like he wants, like, the physical world, it's broken, we're in decay, but our hope, from a theological standpoint, is God's going to come renew it someday, and the new heavens and new earth is going to be a new physical world. Like, we're going to have resurrected bodies. And I mean, it's very easy to realize, like, from a theological standpoint, the in-person, incarnational, physical being together is a very important thing for, I think, for our own individual health, community health, and I think we'll appreciate that a ton moving forward. And then from a worship standpoint, I don't know, like I live in the worship production world. I really care about that stuff a lot, and having, engaging the senses in worship with sound and lights and visuals, and I want people to feel it, like the truths of the songs that we're singing and stuff like that, not just logically track with it, the words, but also feel and hear and experience all that. And that's just stuff that, like, again, to try to get that, even with the best production equipment to capture and stream, like, it's nearly impossible to replicate that online until, like I said, there's some sort of really advanced virtual reality system and we all live in our like avatars in this other separate virtual world. So that's weird. That's going to be another theological challenge to navigate.
Yeah.
But I think we have to be open to talking about those things and exploring them when they're here. But I agree that we are not going to take in-person gatherings for granted anymore.
No. It seems like with all the technology that has developed in the last, say, 20 years in particular, there's been a lot of technology, but none of it can replace the core element that has been around for 2,000 years. You don't need technology to just appreciate the presence of people and relationship and someone, like hearing your voice, sensing someone's breath, their touch, so many elements like that there is no technology for that. And so, and even listening to you and in your whole life, so dedicated to technology, but it's all got to fundamentally be pointed back towards enabling those core elements of church that don't need technology in some ways. They've been around for thousands of years before we ever had a plug or a light or anything like that. So
Yep. Yeah. And we even see, like, in the non-church world, the people, have had this huge thirst and desire for the things to open back up, whether it's even like a movie theater, right? Like, I can stream things on Netflix or HBO Max or whatever, but it's like, it's just, I still love paying to go to a movie theater to experience that, like, way better in-person experience. That's just like way more fulfilling and entertaining, and it's just like awesome. Or coffee shops too, like being able to actually go back into Starbucks, or we have a new coffee shop that just opened up down the couple doors from us here at our office. So I spend an ungodly amount of money on coffee now because it's so close by, but it's great because it's like this community hub. People are there rubbing shoulders and meeting new people. And it's just like, it's just such a it's not even like, this isn't just a Christianity thing. It's like a deeply human thing to need and want that connection and those experiences.
Okay, so that's a little bit of conversation, kind of a wandering conversation about live streaming. I've got another whole area I wanted to talk to you about. It's just the music experience, the worship experience in general. I wonder if we're seeing any shifts or changes in the kinds of songs or the kinds of ways that people are experiencing bands, or how they're producing themselves, or the type of sound that they're after. I feel like we've seen some shifts, some sparks, some new things going on in the last, even couple of months, but perhaps in the last year. What do you think? What's your pulse on the tone of worship music since?
Dude, I feel like I can barely keep up with all the new music stuff coming out. And that's where you're the expert, man, on this stuff. Cause like okay, so here's my thoughts. This is based on maybe the past 12 to 24 months more than just the past couple months. But I just feel like, whatever you call it, modern contemporary worship music, songwriting stuff, like, I think like it just kind of keeps maturing in a good way in terms of the depths of some of the songs that are being written. And this isn't a brand new song, but song like Christ Be Magnified. That's one that I did it last year at my previous church when it first came out, because I was like, this is really a modern hymn. It's got really great lyrics that are just straight up truth and also creative, but also still biblical. Like, it's just stuff like that. That's what I like seeing more and more of. And it's just like so that's encouraging to see. I don't know. Like, I think here's my thing is, like, never in the history of the world has it ever been easier to be a worship leader in a church ever. Like, like it's just because there's like so many good, there's so many good songs out there to choose from. Right. So it's like, as a worship leader, I'm not having to like write my own stuff and like, figure out like, oh, maybe there's a certain theme or something that we're preaching on that week or part of the church calendar. It's like there's so many good songs out there that have been written in the past like 2 decades and before that too. We get a lot of older stuff to pull from. But I think now it just keeps getting increasingly better. And I don't know if it's because modern Christian worship music was more just associated with like youth culture maybe a decade or 2 ago, and now all those youth like Joel Houston and all those guys have grown up, and like they I think their own maturity translates into the maturity of the songs they're writing. So that's what I'm sensing. And then all the guys out there, whether it's Hillsong, the Elevation team, Cody Carnes, and is that his last name? Carnes?
Yeah, Carnes.
I joke, so I'm like Cody Carne Asada. Like I just like come up with weird last names for people sometimes, but it's just like great stuff they're writing, right? And like he was speaking of that, we were when we visited Belonging in March. That was great because like that was Nashville, and they like first of all there's like people pretty much full room, no masks, and like they were way ahead of even Colorado in terms of opening up and stuff. And then he was like sharing like a brand new song that he wrote that week or 2 before or whatever. And it was like, holy smokes. I'm surprised I haven't seen it on PraiseCharts yet. Cause I thought listening to it, I was like, this one, I feel like this is going to be one of his next bigger ones, but I still haven't seen it yet. So who knows, but
it's probably coming.
Maybe it's on. Well, they just released a new album. So I think the Belonging Co did. So I don't know if maybe it'll be on their album.
Magnified showed up on that album. That's a bit of a classic, but
nice.
Didn't see the new one.
Bit of a classic, like what, a year, 12 months old.
It's
so,
a hymn.
Dude, I don't know. Overall, I'm very like excited about like all the great songwriting out there, and I know people can kind of throw shade on the kind of the modern worship music industry and like how there's a lot going on. But to me, does way more good than bad, and it provides such a tool for us. The only honestly the only downside I see is like I think too many worship leaders feel too pressured to do too many new songs all the time. It's like just because Elevation comes out with this catchy new song, like it doesn't mean you have to do it, or you don't have to do it right now. Like give it a couple months. Here's the thing, I like to, when I'm looking at PraiseCharts, and I'm looking at top songs, and I kind of like to go by, you guys have a different listings and stuff. I kind of like I like to do a mix of like, okay, let's look at the top 100 songs from CCLI, which you guys have your version of that, which I think is more updated than CCLI's version of that. and then it's like, okay, I'll keep an eye on like top songs this week. And like, that's a great way to just discover like the newest ones, and then just see like, okay, what's actually been hanging out more on that top songs this week list for maybe a month or 2, and then be like, okay, I think this song definitely probably could resonate. So I think it's awesome. So much great songs out there. I think it's just, it's hard to like, I don't want worship leaders to feel pressured to like always have to play that new song, whatever came out. So.
Well, I wanted to segue into this. This is my thought on that. And I know perhaps PraiseCharts is like, we're causing people stress because we're constantly putting new music in front of people and making them salivate and feel like they need to sing it. And I do apologize if I'm causing you stress in that way. But I want to also encourage you. This is a trend that I think, and I don't know if you would call this a trend, but it's something I see happening in the last 14 months, is there's a greater appreciation for some of the old classics. And I'm not talking just like hymns, I'm talking about even, for example, the Belonging Co just released an album, and one of the songs on that album is I Love You, Lord, which basically is the penultimate classic, worship song that everybody knows. Anybody could sing it at any time. It's a beautiful arrangement, and so that's an example. And then another example was from the Elevation the most recent album, there's the song called what is it, where they make reference to I Could Sing of Your Love Forever and Shout to the Lord and some of these old classic songs. It's a something hallelujah. Sorry, the name escaped me. Somebody say it in my office here and then I'll remember it. But the point being is that I think that we don't constantly have to be looking for the latest and greatest. Sometimes we can tap back into what are some of the rich, great songs that I could lead, that people would just go, oh, thank you, that I could just not have to stare at the projector and try and keep up with these words that are in a brand new rhythm and a melody I don't know. I can just rest. And I feel like talking again about how the church has changed is maybe people just want to like rest from the chaos of the new or different. I just want something familiar. I want something to ground me. I want to feel like I remember. There's so many emotional connections that come when you sing old classic songs like that. So that's something I'm seeing.
Yeah, like we recently just did the Agnus Dei and King of Kings mashup at our church.
Yeah.
So it's like a simple mashup of that I think Hillsong did for worship, and they put it on their EP or whatever. And it was just like, it was cool because I don't know. We have this weird mindset sometimes, and I'm speaking I'm 31 now. But I've been, on the younger side of worship leaders. Now I'm on like the middle to kind of crossing the threshold. I feel like 30 is like a big age difference for worship leaders these days. And, but mostly like as a 20-something-year-old worship leader, I don't know. You just think about like, oh, I can't do that song. It's like 2 years old, or it's like 5 years old, or it's like, oh, that was like back in the early 2000s. It's like, wait, it's like, we really got to kind of like, I don't know. It's just idolization sometimes of the new and the fresh, and it's good. The new's good. The old songs are good. It's all good. You got to you got to hold on to both of them, and you can't just throw one out completely. And I see a lot of churches kind of do that. Like, and I feel like that's in most of life. It's like it's not binary. Life is like in song selection, I don't think should be binary based on the age of the songs. So yeah, it's been like, what was the other thought I had about the older? Oh, you know what? That speaking of my age as a worship leader, because now I've been doing this since about 17, so about 13 years I've been regularly leading worship on Sundays, like majority of Sundays. And I think I've gotten to a place with my song selection that is like, I think I'm just kind of like less selfish about song selection, because as worship leaders, and I don't know, it's like, now I'm trying to pick out set lists that are like, how's the congregation going to experience this and connect with these songs? And you obviously you have to know who your congregation is to like, to know that. And like, we have very wide variety of ages in our congregation, and like from like lots of young families and lots of the older generations. And I feel like it's just the less selfish I am in song selection, in terms of like, ooh, I really like this new awesome song, or like the musically what it does, and more just like what's gonna really just like connect with the congregation. Like that just always ends up way better for experience for everyone, especially for me as a worship leader, because it's like all these songs, even if it's not my favorite song or whatever, it's like it still connects well with the congregants, and they're just singing their hearts out, and it's just like, I don't know, there's so much more joy in that than being like, oh, because I think sometimes, again, these are things that I've thought were like, as a worship leader, it's like some of these simple old songs are so boring and simple. It's like, why would I want to play that as a musician? But it's like, well, sometimes you got to kind of prioritize your pastoral hat before your musicianship hat, and just be like, this is what people's hearts need right now. It can really speak to them. So that's another thing I've been reflecting on lately, is like, because I'm back into kind of like, after a few months of transitioning to a new church, I wasn't leading every Sunday. And then also with like the past 12 months of not leading in like an actual kind of full size church situation. Like I just wasn't. I wasn't in what like in the past 12 months what I would consider like a normal worship ministry routine, much like everybody else, right? Being thrown off by the pandemic. But now that I'm back in it, I just feel like I've entered a new season the way that I'm planning sets, choosing songs, and I agree. Now it's like I don't even worry about. Well, here's the thing. That's why I like going off of CCLI Top 100, and people might think that's so mainstream or whatever, but it's like, here's the thing. These are songs, like some of them within the past decade, that are still, people are finally, maybe took congregations that long to really connect with, like 10,000 Reasons or like Great Are You, Lord, or stuff like that, which, yeah, that was like new and fresh, the hot new song 10 years ago. But now it's like just a core, like good song to always go back to that the congregation always knows. So, yeah.
So you know what the danger is, Jake? You're talking about your age being 30. I mean, I'm 50, so I'm another 20 years on top of you. Talk about a guy that's, you know, over the hill and down another road. But I'm still very interested in this whole world of worship leading. I still consider myself very capable to stand in front of people and lead worship, and I feel a little bit cautious in my spirit about if this whole world of worship leading is given over to 18 to like 25-year-olds, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's great to see young people, but I just hope if you're a young person listening that you're trying to look for some of the like, do you have a mentor in your life, or do you have someone that you're looking up to who is not just looking for the latest greatest song or the band or the technology or the lights or all of that, but what about all the pastoral elements, the maturity elements, just even what you're saying, Jake, about now I start to think about my people more than how much I love this song. So those are the things that you can't download that from PraiseCharts or get it from ChurchFront. You know, it's like these are character issues that we need to see.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard because, like, again, like I have been a worship leader for like in my late teens through all my 20s, and like because in part of that's good because it does bring the, you know, the energy of that you can have when you're younger, and willingness to just like work for nothing and get the job done, right? But then it's like, man, I just feel like what I put, if Jake in 2021 could have been leading worship for the churches I was leading at in 2014 or 2013 or 2015, like I personally just have had so much more life experiences that I feel like I can just lead and pastor congregations better.
Right.
And it's just like, and I don't know, it's hard, like, because worship leading is such an emotionally charged thing combined with theology and other aspects of just being kind of spiritually mature. And I don't know, just understanding as a worship leader now, I think what's different for me is like, okay, I've been married for 7 years, so I know how difficult it is to maintain a healthy marriage. Now I have kids. I know what it's like to, you know, have kids who you care for, but you really have, at the end of the day, you don't really have that much control over like what's going to happen with them, right? I mean, you can do a lot as a parent, but just things like that. So now those are the things that I'm thinking through.
Yeah.
Or also like I'm running a business and building an organization, or like I'm, you know, navigating, I care about politics, and like all now I finally feel like I have all of these same kind of hopes, dreams, concerns, anxieties, and things like that my congregations are actually experiencing, because most of them are that, you know, my age or older, and are going through similar things. Whereas like when you're like 25, you know, or younger, like all you care about is like grades if you're in school, and like what that girl thinks about you or whatever, and like how many likes your Instagram posts get. Like it's just like, I don't know. So
well,
I know
we're just trying to encourage those, you know, because we love you young people, and we
do
the young people for sure, and don't want to just typecast them into one zone. But also worship ministry is not just about the technology and the songs and the lights and that. There is the pastoral element, and maybe that is even coming into a greater sense of priority or need as we're coming around this new year, as people are coming back after being away for so long and thinking about what are the real valuable elements that they've missed. It's it's some core basic things, and as worship leaders, what's the core thing that you offer? Is it just that you bring a song list and a band, and and you can get through the 15 minutes, or do you consider yourself a leader of people, a pastor of people? I wonder how many people even think, oh, I'm a worship leader, but I'm not a worship pastor. Like, is that a thing? It's if
totally
you're a
is.
worship leader, you're a life leader.
That's why, I mean, what we do with worship ministry school, that's what I'm excited about this next season, is because we spent so much time thinking about technology and live streaming, and we will continue to do that because we geek out about it, we enjoy it, and churches still need a ton of help with it. But moving in this next season, as things open up, now worship ministries can start thinking about other aspects of their ministry, and we call it the five pillars of worship ministry. And the first pillar is just the pastoral responsibility of it. And Zach Hicks, a friend, and he's an author. He teaches one of our courses, and he says, ready or not, you're a worship pastor. So it's no matter what, if you're selecting songs and curating that experience, you have a pastoral role. It doesn't matter what title or whatever, churches, get weird about titles and stuff like that. So I'm not talking about an office of a pastor, more I'm talking about the activities you're doing. The activities being shepherding. So that's one of them. I'm excited to get into a season where we can do that more, because even that was one of the initial things when I started building ChurchFront. I would ask people, what do you need help with? And worship leaders are like, I don't know what to say or pray during services, or how to pastor people, basically, right? So that was a big need. And that's why ChurchFront, our motto all this time has been helping you lead gospel-centered and tech-savvy worship, to kind of capture those are two areas right now where that's really huge need in the church. And unfortunately, it's often a dichotomy. People think they can, let's have really pastoral worship or really tech savvy work. No, it's it can be both. And then even just things administrative aspect of worship, that's another pillar of it. The musicianship, that's another one. Tech is another pillar. And then finally the team building and stuff. So that's kind of how we structure it when we're thinking about building our program, or how we need to help someone build their ministry. Usually we can diagnose any core issues to one of those five pillars and help them build it up.
Great stuff, Jake. Well, this has been a good conversation. We've talked about, we started talking about live streaming and just the core need of experiencing the presence of people, which again is not a modern thing. It's been around for many thousands of years. And then, talking about songs and just the value of not just the new songs, but some of the classics, some classic modern songs in the last 20 years, and then even hymns. And there's definitely room that you don't have to feel, if you're a worship leader listening to this, that you've got to just keep up with this frantic pace. Sometimes there'll be 25 great brand new songs, but you can just pick one of them that'll be your voice for the next few weeks or few months or whatever. So, and I think the last thing I just want to say is, if you're a young worship leader, I hope that you're looking to people who have paved down the road, who've got kids, who've been married for more than 10 years, who've experienced some of the depths and nuances of life, and who see this life of worship leading as it's like a life leadership. It's not just a music and tech thing. And so, Jake, even though you're only 30 years old and I'm 50, but we're both in the kind of a similar side where we're not in our 20s or our teens, certainly, and lived a lot of life. So there's a lot of value to be, seeking out people in your world to watch for that, and consider yourself, if you are a worship leader, you're a life leader and a worship pastor for sure. And so at the end of the day, we could talk tech till we're blue in the face, but what really matters is these interpersonal things that have been around forever. So that's my grand summary of my conversation with the tech giant Jake Gosselin. Is at the end of the day, that's what you're all about, is those personal things. So appreciate that about you, Jake. And we'll put a link to that school. Is there, just give like, what's your little quick 10-second elevator pitch for that school? Because we could put a link for that in the notes for this so that people can check that out.
Yeah, just go to worshipministryschool.com. Okay. You can kind of see a free demo of what it's like when you join, but it's a hybrid of online courses and then virtual coaching with our team. And that's we kind of cover all those 5 things I talked about earlier. So whether it's theology, planning sets, whether it's technology, musicianships, really just an online learning platform for worship ministry leaders, whether it's a worship leader or also if you're even a tech director with that more of a focus there, we can help you out. But yeah, just head out to worshipministryschool.com or churchfront.com. We're doing our first live event here at my church in June. And we only have like 5 tickets left. So if someone wants to come, they should snag a ticket. It's going to be a live streaming intensive workshop. So churchfrontlive.com is the URL great. For that.
And we got to also mention Worship Innovators. Jake and I are both a part of this team of people. We're putting on a conference together. That's on June 7th. I think it's like $25. There's about 600-700 people already signed up. A whole host of people. Aaron Stewart from Planning Center, On Song, Matt McCoy from Loop, Jake and myself, many other people are going to be just very practical and personal live and online kind of events. So join us for that. Go to worshipinnovators.com if you want to find out more about that. So that's good, Jake. Thank you for sticking through with me today. Appreciate you and all the work that you're doing to help churches and worship leaders learn how to just be more authentic, more real, more confident, and I love that about you. So that's great.
Thanks for the encouragement, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll see you all next time.